Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time to continue my discussion on the EARTHDAWN Roleplaying game system. Where we last left off, we were diving into legend points, spending them to advance your character. And we've reached a very interesting point in time in our character advancement. Discipline circles. Because we sometimes will want to advance in our circles. This means a lot more for us. It unlocks new potential abilities and talents that we can use by getting higher and higher circles. Now the fact is, there is only one true way to advance within circles for your characters. You must advance your own abilities to a certain level, and then seek out an appropriate tutor who can teach you all about that next circle in the discipline. You will have a number of talents that you will need to have had gotten to that level that is sufficient. Then you will be eligible to start learning that new circle and get better in the discipline. And of course, unlock all the new abilities and things that are associated with that circle. Beginning at second circle, many disciplines have certain characteristics of their character you can improve. So there are effectively 2 steps you need to complete in order to advance into the next circle. If you fill these 2 conditions, you become eligible. First off, you must progress your abilities in training to a certain level. This is representative of getting each of your discipline talents to a rank equivalent to the circle you wish to complete. So if I'm going to second circle, all my discipline talents have to have been raised to second circle minimum. All of my discipline talents. A good example might be if I'm trying to get to 5th circle, I would have 8 discipline talents that I'm working on, and all of them would have to be rank 5 discipline talents. If I have these 8 discipline talents at rank 5, now I can advance to the 5th circle. At least I've met one of the 2 conditions. If your character has talent options, they are not considered. Your talent options, which you could have taken, are on their own. They will never be considered for your discipline circle. You could have them at whatever rank you want to have them at. That is not even looked at. They are just there and abilities that you had as an option. Not any consideration for advancement. Now, once you've reached the appropriate levels in your various discipline talents, you must now seek out someone that could appropriately teach you the ins and outs of the next circle of your discipline. You have to find an appropriate tutor and pay them to advance you beyond your circle now that you have those minimum ranks. This must be a higher circle member of the same discipline that you can tutelage under, and of course this is going to be assuming you're going to be paying them an amount of silver in order to do this. You have to spend 40 hours over a 3-week period training with this mentor. This higher circle mentor. And if you should interrupt this and be unable to complete that 40 hours in a 3 weeks, the time is lost and you must redo it and perhaps re-spend the money. So, failing costs time and money. Now, average costs are provided in the book depending on the circle that you're attempting to train yourself to. That will inform you about how much it will cost you to actually advance. But this is, again, average. Depending on the circumstances with your interactions with this trainer, it may alter this. If they like you or hate you, they may either like you, charge you less, hate you, charge you more. Some of them also may give you specific tasks or things you have to accomplish in order to train with them. There are other circumstances that could affect it, that they could even double or triple the price that they are giving to you, especially if you try to get them to be a private tutor with you. Basically bring them into specifically training just you, making sure everything is done right. Now, once you've successfully done these 2 requirements, the proper ranks, proper training under the proper tutelage, you advance to the next circle. Fairly simple. It's just you do. This move allows you to spend legend points to purchase a discipline talent of the new level and a discipline option of the new option, a talent option that you have at that circle. You learn that new discipline talent from your tutor, but the talent option is a little different. You don't necessarily have to learn the talent option from this tutor here, especially if they don't know it. You don't have to take the talent option now. You could save it until you encounter someone that would be willing to train you in a different one that you don't know. Effectively, you find someone that can teach you that talent option that you specifically want out of the options that you have. Learning a talent option like this later on, after now, takes the same amount of time, money, and effort as it does learning a talent through the versatility ability. You look to your character sheet then, and you record any kind of advancements in ability and enhancements you get from the new circle, plus any new discipline abilities you might have. Now, once you are ready to advance into a new level of discipline in a circle, the fact is you don't necessarily have to advance into the same discipline more. You could advance into the first circle of a new discipline. Multidisciplining is an option, but it is a difficult option to grasp your mind around. The fact is that each discipline has their own philosophies and techniques for doing various things. So moving yourself into a different discipline is trying to integrate different philosophies and different techniques than you already are familiar with into your level of doing things. You have to figure out a way to gel these all together. You have to retain everything you had from before, plus a new way of thinking. The fact is, though, as you gain circles in this new discipline, though, it begins to give you insight on both of them. You begin to balance yourself out the stronger you get at both of them. And this, in fact, actually makes it easier to integrate more disciplines into your entire repertoire. There is, though, a disadvantage. It sounds like the better you get, the more you can have in disciplines. Well, there is another problem with this, because the deeper you get into a discipline, the more that you have to adhere to their philosophies and techniques that they have, their way of thinking. So there could be definite incompatibility issues between these two disciplines. The deeper you go into them, the deeper that you mix in your mind the various things that exist between them. Philosophies, the traditions, the styles of thinking. They might not mesh together well deep into this. This creates a strange paradox when it comes to learning new disciplines. It gets easier, yet more difficult to learn more of them. Now, to learn a new discipline, you must take all the appropriate first circle discipline talents of course, that discipline. You must learn these first circle discipline talents from an appropriate member of that discipline. And this is just not any member of this discipline. You require a 5th circle or higher adept within that discipline to teach you this material. Regardless of your own prowess you have in your discipline. You could be rank 10 in the discipline you had before, and you're getting a first rank in a new one. That does not matter. You are still being initiated into this new discipline. Now, the big difficulty here is, of course, finding someone willing to teach you. That's the first hurdle you're overcoming. You have to find someone that's willing to impart their wisdom on you. And the fact is, you, since you're already into a discipline, have already rigid views, possibly independent-minded. You're more difficult to mold than a character that's starting out learning their first circle ever of any discipline. That person's moldable. You're less moldable. You're more immutable and more difficult to teach. And many teachers, many possible masters, don't like this fact. That's why they shy away from teaching people a second discipline. They might be reluctant to teach you because also their disciplines might not gel together philosophically on a base level. They might not be sympathetic, they might be unsympathetic or despise that other discipline just on the principle of the things. And this is nothing to say of their own personal prejudices that they might have. This person might have a prejudice different from his normal discipline for this other discipline for whatever reason, and if you're of that other discipline wanting to learn his, well, you're already off on a bad foot. They might require you to accomplish certain tasks to prove your worthiness to become a member of their discipline. Certain activities and quests that you might go on to show off that I'm truly willing to join here and I'm a good person, a good fit to join your discipline. Now, the process of actually becoming initiated and of being allowed to initiate into a new discipline is entirely up to the GM discretion. If a GM does not want this character to initiate into this discipline, they don't have to allow them. They can make the difficulty of finding someone to teach them next to impossible. Don't make it necessarily impossible, just make it such a high hurdle it is not worth it for the character to overcome. It doesn't feel worth it. Then they will be discouraged from that. You don't want to say no, you just want to discourage them. You can do it bluntly, though. Effectively, you are showing them that this is not something you want, they shouldn't do, and it's your option as Game Master, whether or not they can get multiple disciplines and what disciplines they can also spread into. Now, sometimes one character might want to use another player character as the person they're learning from to initiate them into a circle. If both of them are 5th circle, then guess what? My other friend over here that I play with that has a character we team up with is of the appropriate circle for us both, for him to initiate me into his discipline. Now, this can be something you don't want to happen. You could allow it to happen, that's just fine too. But traditionally, you want to avoid these kind of connections and focus on GM characters, on your non-player characters, as the things that your characters will learn their abilities from. Of course, they are going to still have to find that 5th circle or higher person, but a good way is to think, once someone reaches 5th circle or higher, they begin to have a lot of obligations and enemies they've earned over their various course of adventuring. They've done a lot of things that could draw them away from the ability to teach someone initiation into a new circle. This can be the same for player characters. You might not have the time constraints proper for your friend to teach you this discipline. You might not be able to have them do that. They have their own things to do, their own enemies to deal with, their own obligations that they are taken away from you. And this is a good way of keeping the two of these separate and preventing PCs from effectively kind of cheesing each other into their disciplines. So another matter is the fees you're going to be charged. These can be quite high. It is 100 silver pieces per circle of other disciplines you already have. And I'm saying disciplines, so you'd add, if you already had 2 disciplines at circle 3, both, that would cost you 600 silver pieces per talent in the new discipline you have to learn from your mentor that you're hiring on. That can get expensive. So if I'm learning a new discipline at rank 1 and I already have those 2 at circle 3, so I'm trying to get into that circle 1, each of those disciplines that I have to learn from that person, 600 gold pieces. Higher up in circles I go, the more expensive. Granted, these are the talents you need to learn. Sometimes you already have some talents from previous disciplines that are compatible with the ones you have now, and you get lucky. Granted, there could be some changes to this price depending on the relationship. You have a good relationship with this master type person you're learning from, hey, they might charge you less. Bad relationship, they might charge you more. There are those masters that will charge you favors, deeds, or possibly even blood oaths in order to get them to teach you, in addition to any kind of prices they may charge you. Learning a second discipline is not as simple as having the money. There's probably going to be role-playing involved, and definitely you should at least have that, if not quests involved. So once you are learning that new discipline, you have to learn all the 1st circle discipline talents of that discipline that you, at rank 1, that you do not already have. Again, certain ones you might already have. Like the Karma Ritual talent that you have already taken as your circle anyway, you don't need the 1st rank of that one anymore. You already have Karma Ritual talent. You must have sufficient legend points available to learn the 1st rank in all the talents simultaneously. That means you are going to have a load of legend points available in order to do this also. Money, legend points, person. We see how we're making this very difficult for you to do. Not impossible, difficult. Now, the talent options for this 1st circle of a new discipline can be taken now or taken at a later time, similar to when I was describing the learning a new circle before, earlier this episode. The important thing to note here is you are only taking talent options from this new discipline. If you have talent options available from the old discipline, these don't match. These are the talent options you have for this discipline at this circle. This is appropriately increased by the legend point cost increase for learning new circle disciplines, which I'll talk about in a minute, but you will use that for that. So whichever circle, whichever discipline you're learning the talent option for, that's where its legend point cost will be determined from. If it's the original, it's based upon the original. If it's the new one, it's based upon the modified new one for that discipline. Now, the legend point cost for determining getting that first rank talent in that new discipline is based upon your current disciplines that you already have. You look to all the current disciplines you already have and look to the lowest circle among them and use that and the chart in the book to determine how many legend points it will cost you to learn that first rank discipline talents. Now, for each of the discipline talents you are taking, you have to spend 40 hours a week training with that master. A character learning more than one discipline talent at the same time could spend this time altogether for increased training time, but you must spend at least 80 hours of training per month. You have to spend the appropriate amount of time added together for all the discipline talents, though, combined. So if I'm learning 3 talents, for example, will cost me 120 hours, it does open it up. I just don't have to do that 40 hours per week. I can do 80 over the course of the first month, and then an extra week of 40, at least. If you fail to study for that 80 hours a month, your training fails, and you have to start over. If you look in the book, you can notice under that chart that the lower your rank is in your in your lowest discipline, when you're comparing it, the more expensive it costs. The higher your rank is, if you get to at least 5, it becomes the cheapest for your second discipline, and then it does still go up more expensive. Again, you want both of them to be at least 5, and then it's the cheapest, but it's still more expensive the more disciplines you get. So there's this formula. It gets easier the more you develop you get, but also a little bit more difficult the more disciplines you try to expand into. Anyway, that's it for today. I talked about advancing your circle in your discipline. And I also talked about taking on a second discipline, the basics of actually taking it on. These are important things you're going to have to know because these are things you're going to want to do. Whether or not you want to get multiple disciplines, up to you. But advancing your circle, you will be doing it over the course of the game. Now, in the next episode, though, I'm going to dive a little deeper into advancing in your new second discipline and talking about advancing there, because that's something you will actually do, advanced circles there, and that makes a difference the way that works also. And then we will, of course, move on to some more things about advancing yourself with legend points. But I hope you're having a great day. If you've ever played a character that has had conflicting ideas in multiple sort of classes or disciplines or something, that you split yourself up between 2 different philosophies and somehow managed to balance it out, I'd love to hear stories about these characters. Leave in the comments below. Regardless, though, until the next time, I bid you farewell.